All right, thank you, Samantha, and good afternoon, everyone. So I begin my today's presentation by acknowledging the traditional honors of the land on which we are meeting today and pay my respect to their elders past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Now, as you can see from the title of my talk, that I will be talking about importance of color in trapping carob moth, which is a pest of almonds in Australia. So a little bit background about the almond industry. Almond industry is the second largest producer and exporter of almonds in the world, with Victoria being the largest almond producing state. This industry is almost close to $1 billion. And just for your information, that in this year, in 2021, about 120,000 metric tons of almonds were produced. This important industry is threatened by many different pests and pathogens, and carob moth is one of the major pests. Carob moth is a nocturnal moth and member of the Pyralidae family, which are commonly referred to as snout moths. It is considered to have originated in the Mediterranean area, but it is now widely distributed across many countries, attacking numerous tree crops, including nuts such as walnuts, almonds, chestnuts, pistachios, as well as other fruits like citrus, dates, carobs, figs, guavas, pomegranate, olives, and the list goes on. In Australia, it has been known to be a pest in almonds since 1960s, but it only emerged as a real problem during the unusually wet summers of 2010 and 2011, where growers noted high level of kernel damage. And since then, it is causing a great deal of economic damage to the almond industry. To deal with this problem, Hot Innovation and the almond industry commissioned a 5-year research project to start developing an integrated pest management program to tackle carob moth and other pests and pathogens of almonds. In this talk, I will be discussing one aspect of how to effectively monitor carob moths in almonds orchard, and if we can modify the currently monitoring system of carob moth. To monitor carob moth activity in the orchard, white triangular delta traps are widely used, which are baited with sex pheromones to attract male moths. These traps are lined with sticky cards, which catches moth, and the purpose of these traps is to give a good idea of what the population is doing during the season. But the question is that how much effective these white pheromone-baited traps are for capturing carob moth is not known. For most of the herbivorous insects, and I will be more focusing on moths today, that for moths, we know that in addition to olfactory chemical cues, visual cues are also important to locate suitable host plants or host animals. Visual cues are important for nocturnal moths. For example, hawk moth can discriminate different colored flowers during the night time. How? Because they have very specialized photoreceptors, sensitive eyes, which actually help them to discriminate different colors in extremely low light conditions. So the role of color in trapping adult carob moth has never been studied. So to evaluate the influence of trap color on the attractiveness of delta traps for carob moth, we conducted several field trials, and I will be sharing some results for this trial. Now, for our color trap trial, what we have done that we have selected 7 different colors, including white as an industry standard. The selection of these colors was based on a review of scientific literature available on moths, specifically in the Pyralidae family. All traps were baited with sex pheromone, which is a synthetic female pheromone, as an olfactory attractant to attract male carob moths. And all traps were lined with sticky bases to capture moths. Clear traps were custom made from double laminated clear sheets, and all other color traps used were made up of corfute material. Each trap color was replicated 10 times, and carob moth, number of carob moths, and even we have also counted the number of all non-target insects captured on these sticky cards. And the counting was done every weekly for the duration of 8 weeks. So let's look at the results for the male carob moth. We found very interesting results that clear traps performed significantly better than all other colored traps, including the industry standard white trap. And when we look at the data for the non-target insects, we found that blue trap caught the highest number of insects than any other color traps, though there was no significant difference with clear or the black trap. Overall, if we look at the results, we found that orange, yellow, and red were the least preferred colors for carob moth as well as for other non-target insects in this study. Now the question, what made clear traps more attractive? So we got several possible explanations. One, that it could be the smooth, glossy surface of our clear traps. They have polarized light, and that could be attractive to foraging males than the matte or the dull surface of other traps. Another possible explanation could be that the moths responded to foliage or tree colors of almond trees seen through the clear traps, or it has something to do with the reflectance or the combination of clear and the green foliage, or the color contrast has some role into this. Or there was another explanation that maybe all the color traps which we have used may be deterrent for the moths. So to test some of these possibilities, we ran a second trial. In our season 2 trial, what we have done, that we have replaced least favorable colors, orange, yellow, and red, with green, brown, and violet, or you can say purple. And for a more consistency, all the traps were custom made from laminated color cards. This experiment is currently ongoing, but let's look at the results from this second trial experiment. So when we look at the results for the male carob moth, although it is the results only for the first few weeks, but the results from the male traps to date are following a similar pattern to that seen in our previous trial 1, that male carob moths are showing a preference for clear traps than other colors tested. And the results for other insects captured in our traps is also similar to our first trial, where blue being the most favorable, where blue being the favorable color, I would say, though not significantly different from clear, black, or green trap. Now, we were also interested in knowing that how the females respond to these different colors. So in addition to doing these male response experiment, we also tested the response of female carob moth. But for female carob moth, there is no commercially available lure or attractant in the market. But luckily, our previous studies, our laboratory and field studies showed that the used diet which we use to rear carob moths was very attractive to females. And when we did our test with laboratory reared as well as with wild carob moth population, we found that both were attracted to the used diet. So to test the response of colors for females, what we decided to use the used diet. We prepared these vials with a perforated lid, and the bottoms are also perforated. And we placed these vials with the used diet inside our traps and put out these traps into the field. Now, what are the results for the females? The results are very interesting, as you can see that for female carob moth, there is no clear separation between colors. But the trend, if any, is towards a preference for black trap. And remember that this data is only for the first few weeks, and where we had unusually cooler and wet weather, which has affected the number of moth catches, of course. But we are expecting that with more warmer season, we might get a more clear separation and we might get a significant effect. One thing more I would like to add here, that that the used diet which we have used to test the female response, that diet was specifically attracting brevet females. As you can see that this is the picture of the sticky card, and the females have laid eggs on these sticky cards. And pink eggs means that they are all viable. First, when they lay eggs, they are white in color, and if they are viable eggs, they will change from white to pink, showing that these eggs are all healthy eggs. So I still need to analyze this data, but if I can just tell you the results, that in all other colors tested, the number of gravid females captured on these sticky cards was about 50% or little less than 50%. But in the black traps, more than 80% of the moths captured were all gravid egg-laying moths. Now, one thing also I would like to add here, that the numbers, if you can see here, they are really less if you compare these numbers with our trial one, even for the male moths. And that is because, because of the weather, because of the different season, because the first trial was conducted during the time from January to March, and it has also covered our almond harvest period. And in this trial, we have some cooler, wet weather, so it has also affected our moth catches. So what are the key findings from these results? So these results clearly show that visual cues, such as color, is important and should be considered in trap design. Male moths showed preference for clear traps, and this result will lead to a more effective monitoring and mass trapping systems for the management of carob moths population, not only in Australia, but elsewhere where this carob moth is a problem. With this, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you all for listening.
Thanks so much for that, Fazila. Has anyone got any questions? Just shout out as I can't see you. Okay, we've got a question in the chat. What are the non-target insects that were in the blue color trap?
Okay, so most of the time I got dipterans. So I still need to identify all those different insects, but it includes wasp. It also included some thrips species. Most of the dipterans, flies, a lot of flies were captured. So I have all, and I also captured some other moths as well. So I need to identify all those different insects. So it's still, the data is very raw and need to be analyzed in detail.
Maybe as a follow-up then to that, do you have a sort of a gut feeling as to why the blue is such an attractive color for these non-targets?
I think it has something to do with the reflectance, the range, because blue and green, these are falling into that UV, close to the UV ultraviolet light, and we know that in most insect that range, which is close to that UV range, is very attractive because some of the insects have specialized receptors to perceive those ultraviolet light. So I think that could be the reason why blue color was more attractive for other non-target insects. I was expecting that there would be some response. That's why in my trial too, I have included violet color, just thinking that I might get a good response from carob moth, but I didn't. So it seems like that carob moth have different photoreceptors than many other insects.
Oh, fantastic. Really interesting results. Thanks for that. Yeah. We got time for another question? On gallery mode so I can see if anyone else. Well, I guess as well then, why with the black, you're saying, obviously attracts gravid females, so it appears. I know it's very early days at this point. Have you got a feeling why the black is so attractive for the gravid females?
I think it could be that these carob moths, they have their life cycle inside the almond fruits. So they have like a darker, the whole life cycle they have from their eggs till their, pupal stage. They are inside the mummy nuts. Mummy nuts are the nuts which are leftover nuts in the almond orchard once the harvesting is done. And they are very dark brown and black in color. So maybe that's attractful for the moths, for the female moths. And they think that this is something like a favorable fruit or something, and they go and they start ovipositing. Or and same thing, even if they attack the new crop, that's they spent all of their life cycle inside those fruits, which is a darker environment. So I guess it has something to do with it.
Fantastic. All right, thanks so much